Steeler Nation, we are back with another great episode of the Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. And yes, it is getting crazy because we play a football game Friday. It's preseason, but hey, we got to take it where we can get it right now. As always, I'm Jay York Football, joined beside me, mic'd up Sports One, the sports almanac himself. It never gets old saying that because it's true. How are you?
I'm okay, I guess. By the time this show drops later this evening, who knows if big news drops? I feel like we've been waiting on something for over 72 hours now. I'm pretty sick of reading the guy's name and saying his name, but we have to talk about it at this point. It's not just the
Yeah.
biggest story in Pittsburgh, it might be the biggest story in the NFL. So we're excited, like you said, to bring on a national NFL contributor to kind of help at least give his diagnosis on what he thinks might be going on in this never-ending saga with BA.
Shane, run it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Harris Smith shields. Blackout. Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Not that this guy isn't always busy, but I'm sure his plate is about to be overstuffed and overfilled because you said it, JY. NFL preseason is officially upon us. We're excited. He's a columnist, reporter over at Fox Sports. You can find him on X at Henry C. McKenna. It's none other than Henry McKenna. What's going on, man? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here. And I guess on this podcast, he's he who must not be named, the receiver that must not be named. One of the
we're gonna name him
runners in the
we're gonna name him.
You have to.
Because obviously it is the hottest button topic around. And it sucks we haven't had any type of concrete resolution yet. What are your predictions? What's going on with the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk, Henry?
It's starting to feel like it's Pittsburgh or nothing, or he goes back to the 49ers. The reason it seems to be dragging on as a transaction, whether it's going to be a trade or a contract extension or both, is that there are three parties involved now, right? Like most NFL negotiations are simply two-party negotiations. Like if it's a free agent, his agent negotiates with the teams. If it's a trade, it's two general managers coming to a consensus on where the value is. It's almost like trying to do a three-team trade, in the NBA or for fantasy football folks. It's like anytime you bring in a third party, things get more complicated. So right now it's Steelers talking to the 49ers with also Brandon Aiyuk and his agent negotiating a contract. So that's why we saw, for example, New England was in play because the 49ers liked New England's offer in terms of like an asset return. But Aiyuk said, thanks, no thanks. I don't want to go to New England. I don't want to develop Drake May, and I don't want Jacoby Brissett to be my quarterback. Now, I'm just sort of imagining what he is thinking and saying. I don't know that to be the reason why he said no to the Patriots, but NBC Sports Bay Area did make it clear Aiyuk did not want to be a Patriot. So that rules them out, right? And so if he does kind of want to be a Steeler, which is what every indication has been, then it's a matter of the 49ers and the Steelers lining up the proper compensation for Aiyuk. And given that he's one of the best receivers in the NFL, that's complicated, but then they're giving him the extension. And so they have to figure out if they can get the money right with Aiyuk. And then what can ultimately lead to the final sort of backbreaker is, would the 49ers then look at the deal that the Steelers have in place for Aiyuk and say, okay, we'll give you that. They could kind of like come in the last second and say that this is actually what we're willing to do. So there's a lot of stuff happening, and I am too surprised that it hasn't happened. One of these things. but I can see why it's dragging on a little bit.
You feel like San Francisco wants a receiver back in some capacity. They signed Robbie Chosen Anderson, whatever his name is now. Today, Pearsall, the rookie receiver, looks like is a little banged up. Maybe that's the holdup?
Yeah, I could see that being why the 49ers weren't initially, like, there was that report that the Steelers were out on the deal, and maybe it was because they weren't getting a receiver back in the deal, and then Aiyuk was like, well, no, I don't want them out. That's where I want to end up. So again, kind of speculating on how these things are happening. There's probably a lot of leverage plays happening where, like, like we said, 3 parties. And that's considering sort of like the trade partner, one party. Really, there were 3 interested parties outside of that situation, right? So everybody's kind of like fighting for leverage in this situation. There's it's not like misinformation, but there's like limited information being leaked to, the top insiders like Schefter and Rappaport. So you're kind of like seeing parts of the picture materialize when these reports come out. But then you're also kind of like, okay, what's missing here? Because it seems like it's incomplete. And that incomplete element, it tells a story in itself, right? Like that the Steelers were like close to the picture and then gone all of a sudden and then back all of a sudden, right? That tells us that somebody is intentionally like changing the situation to try and make it seem as if the Steelers are out or whatever. So, yeah, I'm curious just to see, I mean, just like you are curious to get resolution here. And the 49ers, like you said, are probably anxious as well, because receivers are the second hardest commodity to come by in the NFL. And I think they probably thought maybe they'd have one more year for Ricky Pearsall to develop behind Aiyuk and probably replace Aiyuk.
Go ahead, Jordan.
So let's talk about another position, Justin Fields. Do you think he has a chance to win the starting QB position?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, think about, this is a fun humble brag / name drop. I was on the phone with Pete Carroll a week and a half ago, talking about when Russ won the job away from Matt Flynn many years ago. And Pete Carroll said that Russ was starting to pull away from the Matt Flynn competition heading into preseason. But when Matt Flynn suffered an injury in preseason and couldn't play, the preseason game that he was supposed to start, Russ started in Flynn's place, and Flynn then lost the job, like right then and there, basically. So, I think Russ dealing with an injury, giving Fields ample opportunities to work with the ones. Another situation to compare to Mac Jones and Cam Newton. Mac Jones comes in as a rookie. Cam Newton spent the year starting the previous year, wasn't looking like himself, looked like he had declined, sort of like Russ did, obviously, in Denver. And Cam got COVID, I think. And so Cam missed a series of joint practices against the Giants. Mac Jones ran with the ones, and that was when he took over. So it's sort of earlier in the process with Justin getting, so many reps with the ones ahead of Russ, but don't underestimate these injuries at a crucial moment in installing the offense and developing rapport with the top receivers. It's a big deal. And for a guy like Fields, who kind of, I think, needed this break, like he needed more one reps than a quarterback competition would allow him, right? Because we saw in Chicago, this is a guy who really needed time and coaching and wasn't getting the support he needed from a personnel standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, basically from everything that you could really want from a rookie. All those physical tools, which he wasn't, but a young player, all those physical tools are there. They're just like still totally undeveloped. And I think you put him in Pittsburgh, you give him opportunities with the ones. That coaching staff is really solid. You give him Brandon Aiyuk, then all of a sudden, I don't know.
Can't stay away from that name in Pittsburgh, can we?
I know, but it's such a good. He's such a good piece for that offense. I mean, as you guys have probably been talking like crazy.
I don't think Van Jefferson. No shade towards Van Jefferson, but I don't think he's the number 2 that you're looking for.
I know, and not only does sort of Aiyuk become the number 1, right? Like that's how good he is. It's not like you're replacing the 2; you're replacing your number 1. And then, but just from a technical standpoint, guys like Aiyuk are really good for young passers, right? It's like he's such an advanced route runner. He's so technical. He creates immense separation. It's just like a good type of receiver for Justin Fields to really help him out. It almost reminds me of like how the common adage is like, go get yourself a tight end. I don't know if you have like a really good like Keenan Allen. Think about what Keenan Allen and Stephon Diggs did for their respective young quarterbacks. Like Brandon Aiyuk can do that. I was hoping, I'm based in Boston. I was hoping that Aiyuk came to New England, mostly because then I'd have more access to cover him, nearby. And that might aid in the development of Drake May, right? So it's very similar for Justin Fields.
Okay. Well, that was the perfect segue into my next question. Wide receiver talk. Is George Pickens ready to take the next big leap and become an NFL superstar? I mean, we know the talent's there, but just now with a competent quarterback play, hopefully this will be the year.
Yeah, I always have pause when the breakout year for a receiver is supposed, or any player is supposed to come in the same year that team is trying to put someone above them in the depth chart, right? Because when a general manager is pursuing the number 1 option at the position where we're expecting a breakout player to break out, that means the GM thinks something of the person who's in place. And so maybe that's a situation where Pickens isn't quite ready to be the number 1 in this offense that they do need. They need someone maybe to be the 1A to Pickens's 1B. I haven't been on site in Pittsburgh, to be honest, to watch Pickens and really observe like where he's at from his development standpoint. But we saw a truly special player last year in flashes, and the production was there. So I mean, it's a matter of consistency, I think, and getting like any player that's as gifted as he is. It's just about doing it. And,
I agree.
And the one thing I'll say too is like the targets are just going to go up. So, I mean, if Aiyuk doesn't land in Pittsburgh, then yes, like it's kind of inevitable, right? Like that Pickens is going to end up being, like you said, Van Jefferson, not really he's not going to be the vacuum of targets that folks are anticipating. And I don't know, Roman Wilson, maybe it might help out a little bit, but I don't see him as like the most pro ready receiver. So yes, the answer is sort of it's a yes with like a sort of asterisk.
I have to agree. And before I throw it back over to Mike, just had to get your take on this. Your thoughts about the Steelers declining the option of Najee Harris?
Declining Najee's option. Yeah. Well, look around at the running back market, and you'll see, generally speaking, that the option doesn't make a ton of sense. Add in that they seem actually to sort of like Jaylen Warren almost more than they like Najee, and you just, I think, like financially that 5th-year option doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It kind of reminds me of like, I don't know, like maybe Clyde Edwards and Isaiah Pacheco, or even like what's happening in Denver with Javonte Williams and maybe Jaleel McLaughlin. It's like when teams draft the every down running back, but he's not like a Hall of Famer in this current NFL environment. The every down running back, when they can't quite be like Christian McCaffrey, or they can't quite be even Alvin Kamara, where they have that like that 3rd down playmaker switch, which Najee doesn't have, then they kind of become like relics of an older time where, Najee is like a really, proficient, I would say, running back, but he's not like a spark plug. And so a guy like Jaylen Warren, while he, doesn't quite have that like star power or whatever you want to call it, it's like, but he ultimately is a little bit more suited for today's game from a skill set standpoint. And so ultimately, like, I think Najee probably doesn't come back to Pittsburgh. I think that's just the way that running back situations like this tend to pan out, unless he takes like a huge discount because he wants to stick around. But generally, he hits the market, he goes and ends up as an RB2 for someone else.
Yeah. We're hanging out with Henry McKenna here on the Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy. Want to shout out a sponsor really quickly, Homage. They're doing great stuff, homage.com. They offer a wide selection and the softest, most comfortable tees. They don't just do it in sports, it's pop culture. And, capturing a lot of legendary moments, that's for sure. So do us a favor, learn about Homage. The link is in the description. Make sure they really are the softest tees and a good timing to get something like that as football season is here. Hey, let's get you out of here on this, Henry. I want to always ask some national reporters. Obviously, you're covering a lot of teams. What you think in terms of the pecking order of the AFC North? You've had a lot of changes. Derrick Henry to the Ravens, a guy like Patrick Queen to the Steelers. What are your thoughts on, where some of these teams could go this year?
It's tricky. I like Ravens atop the division. I think I like Browns second and Steelers. Oh man, such a competitive division.
The Browns second, really?
I don't
remember. You're on a Steelers podcast, Henry.
I know. I immediately wanted to take that back.
Do you think Watson
still time
finds it?
I just really like that defense, and I think that offense has the right
defense
pieces. But then I was going to put the Bengals fourth, and that's insane too.
Good division,
not a bad division.
Yeah, it's tricky. So let's. I still like the Ravens at 1. I like the Bengals. I might just do it based on quarterbacks at this point. Well, but then the Steelers would be last. This is my final answer. Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns in that order.
I got you to flip it. And honestly,
but I actually do I kind of do like the Steelers better than I like the Browns. So yeah.
Fair enough. I think that's been the consensus when we have had guests on. Maybe we talked you out of it, but it's, listen, you still have a few weeks to finalize that, I suppose. Hey, man, it's been an absolute pleasure. Tell folks where they can find you.
Yeah, just give me a follow on Twitter, Henry C. McKenna. I just fired up my professional Instagram page. So that's nice. Henry C. McKenna 48. And then I also have a Facebook page that you just search my name, Henry McKenna, and you can find it on the professional page. So and then finally, follow me on the Fox Sports app. You can actually just like click the like button on my stories, and that will send you my content right to like the front page of your app.
It's awesome. Hey, we'll keep up the good work. We appreciate it, and we'll have to have you on again soon during the season. Maybe when do we play the Patriots this year?
I don't think.
I have to go back
and I don't want to talk about what happened last year.
Yeah.
But I don't think so.
But either way, man, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'm excited to watch some preseason football tonight. Patriots will take on the Carolina Panthers. First look at Drake May. I don't know if that team is going to be competitive this year, which is a very relevant topic as well, because it's probably why Brandon Aiyuk is rejecting a trade there, if there hypothetically is something in place. So, who knows what's going on at the end of the day. Everybody kind of is feeling Pittsburgh, right? You have that just like gut sense right now that if you said, hey, Mike, what is your pie chart, with 49ers, Steelers, Browns, Patriots, I'd probably say like 60% Steelers, 30% 49ers, and the others at 5%. But I'm ready for it to be over. And I think what is being lost a little bit is how badly Pittsburgh actually needs this guy. If George Pickens goes down, they are thin. I mean, you're talking maybe worst wide receiver group in the NFL if Pickens were to go down for any amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, and this isn't like any shade to Van Jefferson, but he hasn't proven in his career in the NFL that he's a number 2
Neither is
receiver.
Calvin Austin.
I mean, listen, don't even get me started on Calvin Austin. I was so excited when we drafted him, and his speed was great, but he is nothing more. Me and you both said it, than a gadget. I mean, to me, he's just a special teams player. At this point, I don't know what happened, like the injury the first year. Last year, I get it, the quarterback play, but he hasn't shown me anything either. I think Roman Wilson can be a good number 3. I just don't think he's ready to. Yeah, and I don't think he's ready to step into that number 2 role, or this season, or if ever. And that's just talking ball, man. But yeah, Aiyuk, I know it's like beating a dead horse at this point, but it would be great to have him in Pittsburgh alongside George Pickens. I think that can really do some damage. So we'll see. The watch continues. And this was previously recorded. So if something does happen in that
maybe
time,
he was traded.
Yeah. I tweeted this morning. I was expecting to I wake up pretty early to start my day, and I was hoping, just fire off some tweets, yeah. And that's the thing is that, I don't really speculate until it comes from like, Schefter, one of the big dogs. I don't really put too much value into it. These local guys, I get that, they all have sources and stuff, but at the end of the day, until I get that and it says Brandon Aiyuk agreed to a deal with the Steelers, I won't believe it until it's in front of my face. So,
yeah, facts.
All right. Well, hey, we appreciate Henry jumping on. Very, very great guest. Just broke it down. I really like that he was on the phone with Pete Carroll, humble brag, and
that's cool.
It's really cool. I think that anything's possible. And we all know we've seen Duck Hodges, become the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and
I would say that, time.
Yeah, anything's possible. So here we go, baby. We're gonna beat the Texans and start off 1-0 in the preseason. So let's ride, Shane.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.